serious side effects being investigated by the FDA and the Tylenol recall, and there could be more fallout ahead. Our Parisha Kavalance has been on top of the story. She joins us now for more on that. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
You've been on this for weeks since the news started trickling out. Where do we stand now, first and foremost?
Well, what's coming up tomorrow, Thursday, senior executives from McNeil, as well as senior officials from the FDA.
And McNeil's part of Johnson & Johnson.
Yes, McNeil is it's a drug maker. It's a division of Johnson & Johnson that's been hit with a string of recalls over the past 8 months. 4 major recalls. The latest was on May 1st when there was a widespread recall of some of the most commonly taken over-the-counter medications, including, Tylenol, Motrin, Benadryl, Zyrtec. So very worrisome development, because if you think about it, pretty much everyone has, this product or a couple of these in their, bathroom cabinets.
And the fact that it is a recall of children's over-the-counter medicine certainly doesn't help it. It elevates the fear factor. Looking at the deaths, because you talk about this in your reporting, whether or not any deaths have been associated with this recall or not. That's a major question and something that needs clarification. So in terms of any deaths potentially associated with these medicines, what's the final word as of now?
What sources close to the investigation have told us is that the FDA has received several hundred of these type of complaints, including more than 30 complaints which pertain to death. However, the same sources have told us that a majority of these reports of deaths were not tied to these recalled medications. So we have to be very clear about that.
Is there any potential that any of those 30 deaths were tied to these drugs?
We don't know yet, because sources tell us that the FDA is still continuing its investigation into about 9 of these adverse event reports pertaining to death.
You also say in your reporting here the FDA earlier this month issued what you call a scathing 17-page inspection report on some 20 violations at one of their plants, the Fort Washington McNeil plant, which produces a lot of these drugs.
Exactly.
Not a good sign.
It definitely isn't a good sign. The Fort Washington plant makes all the pediatric versions of these over-the-counter drugs. And these violations were absolutely some of the worst that, healthcare experts say they've seen listed.
Like what?
They ran the gamut from, a potential bacterial contamination of the raw materials that were used to produce some of these drugs. They say there wasn't sufficient employee training. There were serious quality lapses. There were serious lapses in what's called good manufacturing practices. Experts say that's a very, very serious violation.
In terms of the congressional hearings that we have this week and the long-term political fallout here, potentially for the company, what kind of power, Parisha, does the FDA have in all of this?
Well, the FDA has said repeatedly that given that McNeil has initiated 4 recalls over the past 7 months of these medications, they're going to pretty much take a look at whatever they have in their arsenal when it comes to what actions they could potentially take. It could be a simple warning letter to the company that says, hey, you better fix these problems that you have, and you better fix it in a given time period. They can issue something that's called a consent decree, which means we will allow you to continue making these drugs, but you're going to have a third-party, an independent firm that's going to validate that these products are, up to standard. And that's a very expensive thing for any company to agree to. And it's going to be very expensive for Johnson & Johnson. The FDA could also ultimately say, you have to shut this plant down completely.
Wow, and that would be incredibly expensive.
Yes.
But the company, not to mention what it does to the image.
Exactly.
Well.
Yes, you also have to consider that Johnson & Johnson is taking a very big hit on its brand, on its reputation with its consumers. Johnson & Johnson is it's a very old company. It has had a pretty good, brand image and relationship with consumers. I mean, there's so many products out there that, consumers have grown up with.
Right.
So from a brand image perspective, this is a serious setback for the company, and we have to see how, from here on, how they handle this issue.
Of course, I think there's a lot more ahead in this story. I know you'll be on top of it. Parisha, thank you.
Thank you.